Kisah Mualaf kali ini menceritakan tentang orang tua yang mengikuti jejak sang anak. Beliau mualaf karena takjub melihat anaknya yang begitu taat menjalankan agamanya. Dari situlah hatinya tersentuh. Kita simak kisah cerita selengkapnya. Assalamualaikum pemirsa yang dirahmati Allah. Kembali lagi ke channel Hidayah Surga, channel yang membahas tentang perkembangan Islam di dunia. Sebelum melanjutkan video ini, silakan tombol subscribe dan tekan tanda loncengnya supaya tidak ketinggalan kisah cerita selanjutnya. Semoga Allah selalu melimpahkan rahmat dan hidayahnya kepada kita semua. Barakallah, amin.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pass. Stanford Pass?
Yes.
Yes. We have a...
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah, we're here in New Jersey. So you were born in New Jersey?
No, actually I was born in St. Louis, Missouri. Moved around the country a lot. Moved to New Jersey in 1966 when I was a senior in high school. Then my life became like an odyssey. A lot of traveling. Came back to New Jersey most recently after the death of my father. May Allah shine on his grave. He said he saw the light, he saw that Muhammad was a prophet, and he saw that the Torah and the Gospel both came from the same one God before he passed. So I came up here to be with my mother and to help her, who just passed away 3 weeks ago.
So we pretty much know that Jews, they end up believing in the prophets up until Moses. They full stop there.
Yes, they do a full stop at Moses.
And then from there they reject Jesus, peace be upon him, and Muhammad.
At best, they say Jesus was a great teacher. At worst, I don't even want to mention it.
Okay. And then Muhammad, they also don't accept.
No.
Yeah.
But these aren't, you see, just like in Islam, where I'm only a 5-year revert, so I can't quote chapters and verses, but I remember some of the stories. The Prophet ﷺ said that there would be 71 misguided, there'd be over 70 misguided sects in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and the only straight path is the straight way, Quran and Sunnah without innovation. So when I first became Muslim, I said, oh great, I thought I was home free. I became Muslim, this is it, home base. And they said, no, this is where you start learning. You have a long way to go.
Jews, they stop at Moses.
Yes.
Christians go ahead.
Yes.
They elevate Jesus to God.
Yes.
But you ended up accepting Jesus.
Yes.
And as a Jew, you ended up accepting Jesus and Muhammad. And now you're Muslim today.
Yes. I was in a Christian monastery during my search. I was on a hippie farm. I did some Eastern meditation in my search for the truth. When I was 14 years old, 2 things happened. Most of the hair fell out of me. That's why I don't have a beard. If I could grow hair, I'd have a beard that I have to put in my pocket. But Allah gave me a few whiskers since I became Muslim, but I haven't grown hair on my body since I was about 20. So I've been married twice, have 2 grown sons. One is Muslim, the one who led me to Islam.
So he accepted Islam before you.
You're older than Islam. But the 2 things that happened when I was 14 is, 1, I lost all my hair. 2, President Kennedy was assassinated. And I was watching the TV and I could tell they were lying to us about what happened. I saw pictures that didn't coincide with the story. So at that point in time, I knew that something was going on that was fishy. And that began my search for truth. What's really going on in the world? What's really going on in life? And I started looking behind the scenes of everything that was happening in the world and found out that there's a reality going on that most people know nothing about, and the rest is an illusion. It's been created that we live in. And when I finally got to the point of when 9/11 happened, then it got to the point where I realized the illusion even extends to God. Not that he can be touched by it, but people can. People can be influenced by media, by stories, propaganda, and so forth. So that is very much of a reason why I was in a position where Allah allowed me to become Muslim, because my mind was open. I wasn't into peer pressure because of the hair. I was into finding the truth because of Kennedy's assassination. And I wasn't letting any fences in front of me or peer pressure or anything stop me from getting to where I wanted to be, which was I wanted to know, why am I here? Why am I alive? And now, for a lot of people, they didn't have as intense or as heavy experiences growing up. So a lot of people who may have had a very sheltered life may look at me and go, well, that's good for you. When people say to me, I'm glad you finally found something in your life that works for you, it feels like I'm in a burning building and I found the fire escape. And I'm telling people around me, there's a fire escape right here. And they're going, I'm glad you found something that works for you. And I'm telling you, it's like, but you can't, all we're here to do is convey the message. Allah knows best.
Tell us, you also spent some time in a monastery.
Yes. When I left the farm, I was hitchhiking around, and I was in Chicago, and I saw a brother, a young man, doing some exercise on the beach, but I saw some light around him. And I said, where are you from? Who are you? And he said, I'm with this holy order. So I went back to his house with him, and where it was like a monastery, and I didn't leave for 3 years. And I was sent around to different places around the country. And they were teaching, it was called Pauline Catholic, and I don't even know what that really means. I guess that because they base it on Paul. And they were teaching the Christian mysteries, so to speak. But it was the Trinity was involved in, Anyway, I heard about the Eastern Meditator, and then I left the monastery, went to do Eastern meditation, got married during that time for 21 years, had two sons. So I've been searching for the truth since I was 14, and look at us now.
And tell us a little bit more for those people that don't know, about Judaism. What were some of the beliefs, and why didn't you stick with those beliefs?
Well, the basic belief of Judaism is the same basic belief of Christianity and Islam. It's monotheism. From the time I could hear and understand English, I heard, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one," when I would go on Friday night to the temple with my family. I'm eternally grateful to my parents for putting monotheism into my head and my heart at such an early age. In Judaism, there are sects, as we all know, in all the religions, ranging from way out Orthodox to way out Reform. So you've got extremes on both ends, and then you've got a lot in the middle. I was raised in what they call conservative Judaism, which was kind of Judaism American style. Judaism kind of watered down. It didn't practice all the laws, and my mother kept a kosher home, so that's like halal. I ate halal, like kosher food all my life. She lit the candles on Friday night. There were celebrations at the dining room table. Family was a big deal, always a big deal, which is the same as in Islam. But I mean, in the original commandments of the Torah, there's like 10 basic commandments, and then there's like 613 other commandments. And the priesthood of the Jewish people during that time, the rabbis were getting really corrupted and holding people's feet to the fire about every little thing, and really making a killing on sacrifices and so forth, like the money changers at the temple that Jesus turned over when he came, peace be upon him. So when Jesus came, peace be upon him, I learned he was the last prophet to the Jews and the Messiah of the Old Testament. He wasn't the world prophet. He was the last one that came for the Jews. And that's even explained in some places in the New Testament. A Canaanite woman comes to him and says, "Would you heal my daughter?" And he said, "I just came for the lost tribe of Israel. I didn't come for you." And then she humbles herself and says something, and he heals her daughter by the power of Allah. There are so many versions of the New Testament out there. It's a challenge. And there are so many sects of Jews and Christians that it's a challenge to try to sync up with someone, because there are some Christians who don't worship Jesus, and most of them do. There are some Christians who don't believe in the Trinity, and there are some Christians that do. So one of the basic points when I'm having dawah with a Christian is, number one, they start cracking on the women wearing things on their head. I said, "Did you ever see a picture of Mary, peace be upon her, may Allah be pleased, with her head uncovered? Did you ever see a picture or a statue of Miriam? May Allah be pleased, with her head uncovered?" No. Oh, what's this with you having multiple wives? I said, Abraham had multiple wives, Solomon had multiple wives. Islam didn't invent multiple wives. Every time, it comes on. What about stoning people for adultery? I'm going, this was meant to be a strong deterrent. If you look at the parameters for that, it's next to, it's like very unlikely you're going to get 4 witnesses and all this other. It's a strong deterrent. It's not meant to be a weekly event after Juma, So, but a lot of the people in the world, they have concepts because they believe the media. So, to me, Jesus, peace be upon him, did not come to start a religion. To me, in reality, there is no such thing as Christianity. It's an illusion. People created it. Jesus did not create Christianity. Peace be upon him. It was created after him. It was a brand. It's a moneymaker. There were sincere people involved, but the ones who really juiced it and turned it into a big business, what can I say? May Allah guide them. But in order to be Muslim, it's like I didn't renounce Moses or renounce Jesus. I just backed up and read the last chapter of the 3-volume set, and I accept them all. I accept them all. And that doesn't mean I follow the 613 commandments of the Old Testament. When a new covenant is made, the old covenant is not necessary anymore. What I follow now is the Quran and the Sunnah, which is the updated Sharia. The 10 Commandments were Sharia. The Gospel was Sharia.
Yes.
Sharia just means what? Passageway to water? The God's law. It's God's law.
Yes.
So the God's law now is in the Quran. When people get attached to the prophets, or get attached to the book, or get attached to the religion, it's like waving the flag at summer camp. My cabin can beat your cabin. It's not about that. It's about following God, not following a prophet, not following a religion, but following where God's leading. And God led me from my Jewish roots, with being born Muslim, of course, at first, with the fitra and all, but then being raised Jewish, and then going through everything I went through was like a loss, like sped up just took me around the block. Allah took me around the block and dropped me off where I belong. Because I love God. I've always loved God. I love the truth. I've always loved the truth.
So tell us now, we know that we as Muslims, we truly want the best for all of mankind. Doesn't matter if you're a Jew watching this, a Christian, whoever's out there. We know that the last and final messenger, peace be upon him, we see from his tradition, even when there was a Jewish funeral, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, he stood up, and his companion said, this is a Jewish man. He said, is that not a soul? Right? So definitely, now we also see through history, and can you explain to us, it's different coming from someone who was formerly from the Jewish background. We see at the time, because a lot of this conflict, this is something new now, but way back in the day, didn't Muslims, when Jews were being persecuted, and we have a famous rabbi who's out there today, he's an Orthodox rabbi, Rabbi Weiss, and he talks about this, and a lot of the Orthodox rabbis, they talk about how, the Muslims would babysit the Jewish people's kids, they fled persecution, the Jews and Muslims protected them. Can you talk about this? And these are
I have a picture on my Facebook wall of an old Jewish man with the black hat and the black coat and a beard, walking hand in hand, holding hands with an Arab, Palestinian Arab, wearing the cloth on the head with the ring around it and the thobe.
Yeah.
This was circa 1923. All right, here's what happened. World War I was going on. There were a group of German Jews who were Zionists who had emigrated from a place called Khazaria, which is Eastern Europe. There was a mass conversion of whatever they were before to Jews. They're Ashkenazi Jews, Eastern European Jews. All right. Among those Jews, there was a small group of them that were had to control everything. Small group of them. And they still exist, and they are controlling. Allah's allowing it. And these people went to England and said to England, we can help you win World War I. They were in World War I. They said, we can help you win World War I. We can get the United States involved. So England says, yeah. What do you want? And the Zionists said, we want Palestine. Okay? Not as a homeland. The storyline is as a homeland for the Jews. What's really going on is something else, which I won't go into right now. But, so it was called the Balfour Declaration, 1917, where England gave Palestine to the Zionists, but it wasn't theirs. It's like if I gave him this jacket. This is your jacket. I can't give, especially, well, I can't do that. I can't take the jacket. But Palestine didn't have guns, you see. Britain had a lot more guns than Palestine. So Britain says, sure, we'll give you Palestine, which wasn't theirs to give. And that was the beginning. And then all the people that I grew up thinking were heroes who built Israel had really decimated the Palestinian people. And just as a footnote, my parents are good and decent people. They were in the dark. They didn't know. A lot of American Jews have no idea what's really going on. So since the Balfour Declaration, this whole thing about babysitting the kids while the other ones would go to pray and being next door neighbors, Jews and Arabs and Muslims and Jews, that went away. And all of a sudden you've got a political agenda which has nothing to do with the religion, ID thefting the place called Israel and saying this is the Jewish homeland, when in truth, Semite is someone from Southwest Asia. Most of the people in Israel are from Eastern Europe. They're not from Southwest Asia. If they want a homeland, they can go to Southwest Asia. The Semites are the Palestinians. They're from that area. They're from Southwest Asia, which is what they call the Middle East.
Yeah.
So there's been a tremendous bait and switch kind of thing happen.
Hidayah surga adalah hadiah ilahi yang mengubah hati kita, mengukir kebaikan dalam tindakan kita, dan memberi kita pandangan akan keindahan yang tak terbayangkan di surganya, kebahagiaan yang abadi. Sekian, terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.